Imagine this. You sit down at your desk with a simple plan, finish one important task. You open your laptop, take a deep breath, and tell yourself that today you are finally going to focus. And then something small happens. Your phone vibrates. Just one notification. You glance at it for a second, and somehow 20 minutes later, you are watching something completely unrelated, while the task you were supposed to start is still sitting there, untouched. If that feels familiar, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not lazy. Something very specific is happening inside your brain. And once you see it clearly, everything starts to make sense. Your brain is not designed to ignore new information. It is designed to chase it. A long time ago, every new signal could mean danger or opportunity. So your brain built a system that constantly checks what is new and asks whether it matters more than what you are currently doing. That system has not changed, but your environment has. Today you are surrounded by notifications, messages, videos, and endless streams of content. So your brain keeps checking again and again, and every time it does, your focus resets. What most people call multitasking is not real multitasking. It is task switching. Your brain jumps from one thing to another, and every switch costs energy. You open a document, then check a message, then go back, then open a tab, then return again. And each time your brain has to restart. This is why even a small interruption can break your concentration for minutes. And when this happens repeatedly, your brain begins to learn a habit. The habit of escaping. Whenever something feels difficult, your brain looks for relief. That is why the moment work becomes uncomfortable, your phone suddenly feels more interesting. You tell yourself it will only take a second. But in that second, your brain receives a small reward, a hit of dopamine. And that reward teaches your brain something powerful. It teaches your brain that distraction feels good. Over time, this becomes automatic. The problem is not that you lack motivation. The problem is that your brain has been trained to avoid discomfort and chase easy rewards. Now here is where things start to shift. Most people sit down with vague goals like be productive today. But your brain cannot act on something unclear. So it hesitates. And hesitation opens the door to distraction. But when the goal becomes small and specific, everything changes. Instead of finishing an entire project, you simply open the document and write one sentence. Not a perfect sentence. It's simply a challenge to adapt. Over time, this lesson transfers into other areas of life. But perhaps one of the most powerful habits begins with something much less visible. Honesty with yourself. Starting is always the hardest part, because your brain fears uncertainty. But once you take action, your brain relaxes. This leads to a deeper truth. Focus is not something you have. It is something you build. You build it through your environment and your system, not through willpower alone. If your phone is within reach, if notifications keep appearing, if your attention is constantly being pulled, you will struggle every day. Not because you are weak, but because you are human. At some point, something important changes. You stop waiting for motivation, and you start protecting your attention. That is when focus becomes powerful. Now imagine the same desk again, but this time your phone is out of reach, notifications are off, and there is only one task in front of you. No extra tabs, no extra noise, just one clear target. Suddenly your brain has fewer choices, and fewer choices create stronger attention. You sit down, not to feel motivated, but to take control. Because motivation is unreliable. Some days you feel sharp, some days you feel slow, but a system works regardless of how you feel. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Your brain will try to pull you away. It will suggest checking messages, grabbing coffee, doing anything except the real work. That is not failure. That is avoidance. Your brain is trying to escape effort, but instead of fighting it, you simply begin. Not perfectly, just moving forward. And as you continue, the noise in your mind begins to fade. Your attention stabilizes, and slowly you enter a different state. You stop noticing time. The outside world becomes quieter. Your mind locks into what you are doing. This is deep focus, and in this state, work that once felt difficult becomes almost satisfying. But most people rarely reach this state anymore, because they are constantly interrupted. It is like trying to read while someone taps your shoulder every 30 seconds. Eventually, you give up. That is why protecting your attention matters more than any productivity trick. But there is another layer that many people ignore, and that is energy. If you are exhausted, your brain cannot focus properly. If you stay up late, scroll endlessly, and then try to work the next day, your thinking slows down, your clarity disappears, and even simple tasks feel heavy. But when you sleep well, move your body, and take care of your energy, your brain performs differently. Ideas come faster. Decisions feel clearer. And work becomes smoother. Focus is not just mental, it is biological. Most people are not lazy. They are overloaded. Too many tasks, too many decisions, too many expectations. When everything feels important, your brain becomes overwhelmed. And overwhelm destroys clarity. But when you reduce everything down to one clear step, your brain relaxes. The task feels possible, and once it feels possible, you begin. And when you begin consistently, something powerful starts to grow. Self-trust. Every time you finish something you started, your brain learns that you can rely on yourself. That belief changes everything. Confidence grows, stress decreases, and your goals stop feeling distant. They become real. Something you can actually complete. So ask yourself this: what would your life look like if you simply finished what you started? Not perfectly, not all at once, but consistently, one step at a time. The version of you who does that does not look extraordinary from the outside. They simply sit down and do the work. But inside, they are taking control of their mind. And in a world designed to steal your attention, that might be the most valuable skill you can build. So the next time you sit down to do something, important. Notice what your brain tries to do. And once you see those patterns clearly, change becomes possible. But self-awareness requires something else that many people struggle with today. Silence. Think about how rare silence has become in modern life. Everywhere you go there is stimulation. Music playing, notifications buzzing, videos loading, conversations happening constantly. Your brain slowly becomes addicted to this endless stream of input. So when you finally sit in silence, something strange happens. You feel restless. Your mind starts searching for something to consume. That discomfort isn't a problem. It's a signal. It means your brain has become used to distraction. But if you stay in that silence long enough, something remarkable begins to happen. The noise in your mind slowly settles. Beneath that noise, your thoughts begin organizing themselves. Ideas appear that you hadn't noticed before. Problems begin to look simpler. Sometimes answers arrive to questions you didn't even realize you were asking. Silence gives the brain something extremely valuable: space. And in that space, clarity grows. But there is another challenge that quietly weakens people's mindset today: the need to constantly perform. Social media has created a world where everyone feels like they must present a perfect version of their life. Achievements are posted. Goals are announced. Progress is shared in real time. At first, this can feel motivating. But over time, it creates a subtle psychological trap. When your attention focuses on how things look to other people, your focus slowly shifts away from real growth. You start chasing reactions instead of development. But the strongest individuals move differently. They spend long periods building quietly. They work when no one is watching. They practice when no one is applauding. They improve without needing constant validation. And eventually, their results speak louder than any post ever could. Another powerful shift happens when someone learns to protect their time and energy. Imagine someone who says yes to everything. Yes to extra work. Yes to every invitation. Yes to every request for help. At first it feels responsible, even generous. But slowly, their schedule becomes overwhelming. Their energy disappears. And the strange thing is that many people don't realize what's happening. Every yes is also a no. When you say yes to things that drain your focus, you are saying no to something else. No to your goals. No to your growth. No to the work that actually matters. Mentally strong people understand this clearly. They respect their time. They choose their commitments carefully, and they aren't afraid to say no when something doesn't align with their priorities. But perhaps one of the most important habits in building a resilient mind is learning to trust yourself. Every day, people make small promises. I'll wake up earlier tomorrow. I'll focus on my work tonight. I'll stop wasting time on my phone. But when those promises are broken again and again, your brain begins collecting evidence. Evidence that your words don't mean much. Over time, this slowly damages your confidence. Not because you lack ability, but because your mind no longer believes your intentions. However, the opposite is also true. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, Your brain records proof. Proof that your actions match your words. And slowly, that proof builds self-trust. Confidence grows from evidence, not motivation. Another powerful mental shift appears when a person changes their relationship with failure. Most people fear failure because they believe it defines them. They see mistakes as proof that they are not capable. But resilient people see failure differently. They see it as information. Each mistake shows where improvement is needed. Each setback reveals the next step of growth. Over time, something interesting happens. The fear of failure begins to shrink. Instead of avoiding difficult challenges, you begin approaching them with curiosity. Because you understand that mistakes are part of the learning process, this mindset also connects to something many people misunderstand: loneliness. Modern culture often treats being alone as something negative. People fill every moment with conversation, entertainment, or digital interaction, because silence feels uncomfortable. But solitude can be one of the most powerful environments for personal growth. When you spend time alone, without distraction, you begin hearing your own thoughts more clearly. You start recognizing what truly matters to you instead of what everyone else expects. Solitude creates space for reflection, and reflection leads to clarity. Once clarity appears, patience becomes easier, because real progress rarely happens quickly. Skills develop slowly. Knowledge compounds over time. Character forms through repeated decisions across years. From the outside, growth can look invisible at first. But beneath the surface, foundations are forming. People who understand this are willing to play the long game. They continue working when results are still small. They stay consistent when progress feels slow. And eventually, those small improvements begin compounding into something extraordinary. When self-awareness, discipline, patience, and focus begin working together, something powerful starts forming inside the mind. An inner structure. An inner fortress. This fortress isn't built overnight. It grows slowly through thousands of quiet decisions. Every time you choose growth instead of comfort, another brick is placed. Every time you face the truth instead of avoiding it, the walls become stronger. Life will always bring challenges. Unexpected problems will still appear. But when someone has built this internal strength, they respond differently. They don't collapse when things go wrong. They adapt. They learn. They rebuild. And that is the real meaning of a resilient mindset. It isn't about never feeling fear or doubt. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, you have the ability to grow through it. So if we step back and look at everything we've discussed, 3 simple ideas remain. First, the habits you repeat every day quietly shape the person you become. Second, discomfort is not your enemy. It's often the environment where the most meaningful growth occurs. And third, a strong mind isn't something you are born with. It's something you build. One decision at a time. Now I'm curious about something. Which of these habits do you already practice in your life? And which one could change everything if you started today? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring ideas about emotional intelligence, human psychology, and the hidden patterns behind human behavior, consider subscribing to the channel, because understanding the mind might be one of the most powerful skills anyone can develop.